900 hours Central Africa time here on the Newsroom, Jumbo Africa. I'm Elvis Presley. We'll be with you until 12 o'clock today, and the focus really is on the residents of Pretoria. We're very worried about you if you live in Pretoria. Yeah. You are advised, though, to avoid the CBD this morning. Don't go into town. The taxi drivers affiliated to NTA, they're marching to the Union building, Kendall.
Absolutely. I want to see what it is that you think about this matter. How has the taxi strike affected you this morning?
Well, let's take a look at what you are telling us on the Facebook page as well as on the Twitter handle. In fact, we've got here the sports tweet. We're going to let you know just now what it's all about, but we'd like to find out from you, how has the taxi strike really affected you? Have you gone to work, or have you sent your children to school? Did you drive yourself, or did you take alternative transport?
Exactly.
Well,
Taron Richard says, my receptionist is late. So yes, it's affecting people at work already. At least you know why today, no?
Well, Buddha says, I use Metro Rail, GP, the train most of the time, so I'm good. I'm good.
I did hear that some people have been pulled off buses as well.
There was also some trucks being parked in some areas where people can't get through onto the highway. So difficult time for you living in Pretoria. Some congestion, also some here in Johannesburg. Yes. Some say there's no taxis available as well. Yeah. But also today our focus is on the Nelson Mandela Foundation. It says it is time to ban the old South African flag after the furor created around the Black Monday marches on October the 30th.
So we're asking you, should the public display of the old South African flag be criminalized?
Well, 216 votes in, and I can tell you so far 79% of you in South Africa and on the continent of Africa are saying yes, that flag should be banned. Only 21% are saying no, Kendall.
All right, I wonder what's being said on social media. Unkabe Tsipoe says, well, that thing should be criminalized. And to think that some South Africans defend it really boggles the mind.
Nomtoboyi says, yes, it's insensitive. So it should be banned. So we'll wait for your comments. We'll read them as we continue. But we're also asking a sports question. Of course, there is some worrying trends in the Bafana camp.
Absolutely. In picture, you've got Thulani Serero and two pictures of Stuart Baxter looking a little nonplussed, perplexed, and pointing finger like, hey, what are you up to? Well, really, the whole thing is about how Thulani Serero has said he doesn't want to honor his call-up to Bafana unless Baxter guarantees him game time.
So now players can dictate to the coach to guarantee him play time?
Well, Serero seems to want to do that, and we're asking you at home, should Thulani Serero be dropped for good?
Well, let's take a look at what you're telling us. Matthew says, for what reason? Because his point is clear. You can't come here to stay on the bench. Holland is too far to come and do nothing here.
Huitsu Mudimo says, Serero wants guarantees to play. I'm supporting him on that one. Very interesting how some players are allowed. Some fans believe that a player should be able to tell a coach what and what not to do.
I tell you, country before club perhaps? That's another question of another sort as well. Well, that's what we have for you today, but right now let's get down to business and take a look at your news headlines. The National Taxi Alliance strike brings some parts of Gauteng to a standstill. The N2 freeway in the Western Cape is reopened following yesterday's devastating fires in the area. And the Randburg Magistrates Court will be starting today with the sentencing proceedings in a case of assault against the former Higher Education Deputy Minister, Mduduzi Manana. Those are your headlines, but before we get to the news, let's find out from Kendall Makamate what's rolling on the soccer field.
Well, definitely not Thulani Serero, I can tell you that. I can't believe that he believes that he can actually tell the coach that
if he doesn't... arrogance or is it just convience? I'm not sure.
I can't put a name to it, but what I can tell you is like it's not the first time that he snubbed Bafana. We all know he did it back in, I think 2014 it was, when he faked an injury.
That's right.
This man, he's up to it again. Good morning to you. This is pretty much our top story for this morning. This is what we have. Attacking midfielder Tulani Sirero does it again. This time, sniping Bafana by refusing to honour his call-up unless he's guaranteed game time, something the coach will not do.
If he doesn't feel it's an honour enough to be called to a national camp, then he may as well stay where he is.
Always seeing a great shot there.
South African cricket fans are in for a treat this year as the Ram Slam T20 Challenge is set to feature a roster full of Proteas players.
Don't take nothing away from him. He's one of the best fighters, but I don't think he's gonna last in front of me.
Zolani Tet is about to come into win form as he prepares to defend his WBC bantamweight title against compatriot Siboniso Gonya in what promises to be a lucrative fight in Belfast. All this and more we've got for you later on in the Sports Bulletin. Be sure to stick around. Do stay with Elvis as he's got the news.
Thank you, Kendall. Our top story this morning, roads have been blocked off in Soshanguve near Pretoria as a taxi strike by the National Taxi Alliance gets underway. Now they say, that's the NTSA, that the Transport Department has failed to address their long-standing concerns, which include the taxi recapitalization program, and residents of Pretoria are advised to avoid the CBD this morning as taxi drivers affiliated to the NTA march to the union buildings. Meanwhile, the Gauteng Education MEC Panyasa Lesufi has noted that the march coincides with the matric exams and said schools have been instructed to give opportunities to those who may miss their exams today. The taxi associations in the Western Cape yesterday reiterated that they would not participate in today's planned taxi strike by the National Taxi Alliance. Staying in the Cape, the N2 through Sir Lowry's Pass in the Western Cape has been reopened following yesterday's fire in the area. The scenic Clarence Drive for the R44 between Gordons Bay and Roy Else is, however, still closed. Strong winds fanned the flames and at least 5 houses and an animal shelter in Gordons Bay were destroyed. The animals were safely evacuated and no injuries have been reported. About 350 firefighters have been deployed to fight the blaze. Now we'll try and bring you an update on that story with a reporter that's on the scene in the Western Cape there a little bit later as soon as we can get hold of her. Meanwhile, the former Higher Education Deputy Minister, Mduduzi Manana's sentencing proceedings are expected to continue in the Randburg Magistrates Court. He was convicted of assaulting 2 women at a Johannesburg nightclub in August. Now, he pleaded guilty. Arguments were postponed yesterday to allow the defense to go through relevant papers which they received late. Manana says that he takes full responsibility for his actions and is not seeking a lenient sentence. He has called on his supporters to take a stand against all forms of violence against women and says that justice must be served. A video of the assault emerged on social media and went viral. Manana resigned shortly after that and issued a public apology on video. So take a look at a picture of the day that comes from Basil Frank. And this one says, so heartbreaking to see this. Smoke everywhere. Always sad about the animals. Hashtag Salori's Pass. In the Gordons Bay fire, there also a hashtag attached to that. You can see the fire spreading there in the Western Cape. Terrible situation. We'll get an update on that one later. Now, comment of the day comes from Shloni Kyanyana. It says hashtag Balula. It says that the police commissioner will be appointed before the 30th of November. Mind you, no commissioner finished their term since George Fivers in the year 2000. That's a warning for commissioners. Poisoned. Now, in our courts today, we start off in Johannesburg, where the former Deputy Higher Education Minister, Mduduzi Manana, is set to appear in the Randburg Magistrates Court for sentencing. He's been convicted of 3 counts of assault. Manana has pleaded guilty to assaulting 2 women at a Johannesburg nightclub in August. A video of the incident emerged on social media and he resigned shortly afterwards and apologized. In Cape Town today, the trial of the triple murder accused Henry van Breda continues in the High Court. He's accused of hacking to death his parents and brother with an axe at their home 2 years ago. His sister sustained severe injuries. Van Breda's counsel indicated that he may call a psychologist to testify in his defense. Now, these are some of the stories in court, and we'll keep you updated on these developments in these cases. We'll take a short break. We'll be right back after that.
The new 1 litre from Carling Black Label. Share the ultimate reward.
Show me a greater power on the whole continent of Africa. Show me a greater power anywhere.
6th of June 1918 was the establishment of our movement to maintain that
we need to do something about the educational upliftment of the Afrikaner, and we also need to do something about the economic upliftment of the Afrikaner. And that was the two main goals at that stage in 1918.
The Brotherhood never was a cultural organization. It was a state-capturing organization. It is, in fact...
I like that term.
It has captured the financial systems. It has captured the parastatals. It has captured cultural organizations.
For all your constitutional and legal matters, tune into Rights and Recourse on Sundays between 2 and 3 Central African Time.
A lot of us rely on tech to survive, and Africa is already a mobile-first continent.
We built mobile technology that connects motorcycle taxis to commuters and businesses in real time.
My phone was the most important thing.
Africans are using technology to innovate. On Network, we have African technology and social media news. Even robots have heard about us.
Hello, watch Network on SABC.
For African technology and social media news, join Ms. Phumelele Zondi on Network every Sunday at 9 p.m.
Now, the Black Monday protests were arranged as a response, of course, to the farm murders in the country. And in South Africa, we've seen a lot of farmers as well as farm workers being killed. Now, however, it also created a debate over whether the protesters would have been as sympathetic if the victims were black. Now, Black Monday, as you know, was this past Monday, and there was a lot of farmers on the roads, and the protests last week were where some farmers also displayed the old South African flag. It's an image for the majority that represent the oppressive and violent apartheid era. Others, however, feel that it is their constitutional right to own and display the flag, and that it also depicts the good old days. Now, the question is, should the public display of the old South African flag be criminalized? Now, earlier this morning, Morning Live spoke to the CEO of AfriForum and Sello Hatang, the Chief Executive Officer of the Nelson Mandela Foundation.
One of the things that we struggle with is how even those who disavow the flag, who say we distance ourselves from the public display of the flag and all those things, then say, no, but people can have it. People can own it. And it's those people that we want to understand why. Because in our view, this flag represents the worst of South Africa. It represents that very thing that we do not want to remember. The very thing that we said we disavow as a nation. We want to distance ourselves from. So we believe that it is about time that we then say, maybe it should be banned.
All right. Let's hear AfriForum's view on this issue, Mr. Krill. What do you think should happen? Because AfriForum has distanced itself from what happened during hashtag Black Monday, that you don't know anything about the showing of the old South African flag, but yet you're saying that it is one's constitutional right to own one. That sounds very contradictory to me.
No, it's not contradictory at all. Maybe I should just say that it's ironic that we're having this discussion flowing from fake news. The fact is those pictures that were sent around on social media were taken on a different location at a different time, and it was abused by people trying to detract what the real message of Black Monday was. But even though this debate flows from fake news, I still think it's an important debate. The fact is we ask our supporters not to show the former South African flag or any other symbols at our meeting simply because it detracts from the main message, which on Black Monday was the issue of farm murders. But secondly, you don't have meetings to offend anybody else. And I believe it should not be unlawful, but it's unwise to do so. And if we allow the banning of the flag, even people that dislike the previous flag extremely, they must remember they're opening the door for government now to start banning things that they dislike, that they might like. So it is a dangerous route to go. And I think society say, well, it's inappropriate to show it, but we're not going to take away people's rights. And if we're going to start banning, you know, under the communist regimes across the world, 100 million people died. Should we ban communist symbols? I say no. It's part of history and you cannot ban history.
But then apartheid symbolizes something very different in that decree. It symbolizes an era where people lived not so well in South Africa, which is a crime against humanity. So are you saying that you're not offending people who suffered under the previous apartheid regime?
No, of course people are offended by it, but that's why we say it's inappropriate to use it in a public platform where you can offend people. But it's a different reason to ban it. Let me just state, it's quite ironic that I grew up in a family that also disliked the flag, but for other reasons, because it was a symbol of a union that was established when British colonialism defeated the Boer republics, and the Union Jack was included in the flag. So even though from my background there was a dislike, I recognize that there are people, and many of these people don't long to get apartheid back, but say they served under this flag, they were born under this flag, and they see it as part of their history. But what we do say is people should not, on an occasion that is organized for something else, use a symbol that divides people. We need to unite people amongst regarding the various issues in the country. But we cannot start banning. As I've said, you spoke about the crime against humanity. Well, for me, communism was also a crime against humanity in a sense that 100 million people died. But are we now going to ban the SACP from using that symbol? I say no, it's their right. But of course, our view is something should not be unlawful. But we need to say when it is inappropriate.
Yeah, but how do you preach unity, whereas there are people who are concerned about the usage of this old flag? But let me just bring Tate Hatang into this conversation. Just before you comment, the banning of the old flag, will this not infringe on other people's constitutional right, as Tate Kriel is saying?
Let me start off by saying we should differentiate between Kali Kriel's personal opinion about communism and what the United Nations declared as a crime against humanity. Yeah. So here it's not just a personal opinion that it was a crime. Here it was declared by the United Nations as a crime against humanity. The fact that I think IJR conducted a survey recently, and that survey found that over 50% of white South Africans have forgotten that apartheid was a crime against humanity. It is that kind of thing that we should be fighting against, that forgetting. And it's that forgetting again that makes it possible for people to then say, I know I might offend, but I will then exercise my right to then bring that offense. And to then say that people should not publicly display the flag, you privatizing, you then taking racism and racist behaviors and attitudes into a private space, which should also not be allowed. Because we always wonder, how come that young people, young white Afrikaners would harbor such racist tendencies? It's what they find at home. the display of these flags at home that are then found to be acceptable at home. So what you do privately in your home should then be something that you can publicly also do proudly. And I'm saying to Kali, I'm pleading with Kali to say, let's make sure that those things that we find offensive publicly, we should also find offensive privately. Because it means that around the braai, we can be offensive.
Yeah.
Because we all agree, we can then be offensive. Why should we be offensive privately? Be offensive even publicly then, if you are so proud when you are around dinner tables.
Maybe the question really back to Mr. Kriel is, do you not care personally, or perhaps as AfriForum, about how some people feel when certain people undermine the national symbols, be it the old national flag and the current one, be it the South African national anthem? Because there were also reports that during the march, the stem was also sang.
Well, as I've stated quite clearly, we believe it's inappropriate at such a march to do something that would offend someone else. I just want to answer with regard to what Selu said. He said the feeling about communism is my personal view. Well, it's not my personal view that 100 million was killed under that ideology. It's an historical fact. And what we should also make sure is that we don't have double standards. You know, just shortly after the Black Monday protests, the EFF held a protest here in Pretoria. And one of the flags that was displayed there was of an extremist group, Hezbollah, that was displayed. But nobody said anything about that. So if we want to have a discussion, we should not focus on a small group and just focus on that. We should have a broader discussion with regard to inappropriate behavior that creates polarization, because we need a society where there's mutual recognition and respect amongst all communities.
Well, that is the discussion today, and that's why we're asking you this question on our poll today. Should public display of the apartheid flag be criminalized? Now, thus far, 248 votes in. You have 22 hours left to vote. Well, 79% of you in South Africa and on the African continent are suggesting that the old flag should be criminalized. Only 21% is agreeing. Now, we'll read some of those comments of yours a little bit later, but meanwhile, the Black Monday protests were arranged as a response to the murders of farmers in South Africa. However, it also created a debate over whether the protesters would have been as sympathetic if the victims were black. Now, the Center for the Study of Violence and Reconciliation says South Africa's crime statistics alone do not provide a complete outlook of the nature and extent of crime in this country. Many crimes are unreported, and access to justice remains elusive for many. Now, to discuss this, we're joined in studio by Stephen Robello. He's a senior researcher at the Center for the Study of Violence. A very good morning to you, Stephen. Welcome.
Thanks, Hans.
First and foremostly, what is the actual statistics available for farm murders in the country, and not just for farmers, farm workers as well?
I think that's from my reading of the official SAPS statistics. There is no official statistic on farm attacks or farm murders. So that's something that different groups like AfriForum and let's say agricultural unions like the Transvaal Farming Union, they've tried to answer this question, and the statistics vary sometimes quite greatly. We have local celebrities, they try to give us statistics as well that says there's a discrepancy of 10,000 murders a year. But there is no official statistic for farm attacks and murders. We don't even have, from what I've seen, an official definition of farm attack. Is that just including murders? Is that attempted robberies? So it's very difficult to answer that question.
But generally we know that there was about 20 murders committed last year in South Africa. Now that is a concern. That should be a concern. That should be an outcry, isn't that?
So I think from what I've seen, verifying with AfriCheck, which is an organization that also verifies statistics, is closer to about 74 murders on farms, which would be kind of any farm that's involved in agriculture, or any property that's involved in agriculture. So I mean, as you say, that is a concern. And I think as you're saying, perhaps we should be concerned about the 19,046 people that died in the last year. And yes, I I think that a group of farmers does have the right to say that this is something they're concerned about, and I think we should try to take all of these murders seriously and give them attention.
Does the amount of farm attacks or murders for that matter justify the Black Monday protest, do you think?
I mean, I think the group of, let's say, white South Africans, white Afrikaans South Africans.
Well, we must admit that there was also a combination, because we even saw some black farmers and even some farm workers participating in the protest.
I think they need to bring attention to it, and I think that's what they did. And you know, there are probably challenges that the police face in dealing with these issues. I'm sure it's not easy to police in more rural areas. There might be challenges that the police are facing. But yes, I think that it's something that they can bring attention to, and maybe it's a better way than throwing out random numbers on Twitter.
We'll talk about the justification of the old South African flag just now, but there was a 1.8% increase in murder. Now it's the 7th consecutive increase since 2010 that this is happening. What are we doing wrong as a country in relation to murders and the increase in murders?
I think that's something that many organizations are trying to answer, and for us at CSVR, we believe that we need to look at issues like unemployment and poverty and inequality. Our unemployment rate has also been growing steadily since 2010. So there's deeper underlying social issues that have also been getting worse over the past 7 years. You know, and you can only really imagine if statistics, you know, our official unemployment rate is close to 27%, unofficial rate might be even more than that. You know, how does that high level of unemployment affect our country? So I think those are the deeper issues that we need to think about.
So it's social issues, unemployment, of course, which is a big issue, and especially youth unemployment, which stands over 50%, we believe.
Sure.
So what decisive action can we do as a society to reduce this increase in crime rate across the country from the Centre of the Study of Violence in South Africa? From your side?
I think for me that it is something that we can only address this issue by trying to address these deeper issues that we face as a country. Our economy is not growing. What's 0.3% or something close to 0%.
Yes.
Macroeconomic policies I don't think have been working for our country, but we cannot simply increase the number of police on the streets. We need to get to the roots of the problem. I think the police often get a lot of criticism, but you know, if we're not addressing the deeper issues, we can have hundreds of thousands of police out there and might not make a difference.
Some would suggest that we are a violent society coming from the apartheid era, and that's why we still see the apartheid flag being flown, and some suggest that that flag should be criminalized. Your thoughts on that from the centre?
I mean, I think that, you know, listening to your previous interviewees, I think that as a country we haven't had that conversation. We had the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which wasn't a national kind of discussion around how colonialism and apartheid affected different groups. So I think a large bulk of our population hasn't had that chance. And you know, it's understandable that they will be angry when they see these symbols being displayed. So I think we believe that this conversation has been suppressed, it's been repressed. Every time black South Africans want to talk about it, you'll hear things like hate speech being thrown around. So I really think that it's a too emotional conversation for some people, and these conversations just get shut down.
Is that perhaps a symbol that polarized society as we see it, because we've seen an outcry on social media for that matter?
I think so. I think, you know, the thing that upsets me is like the previous interview was saying, is a lot of South Africans might not recognize that apartheid was a crime against humanity. I think it's the Institute for Justice and Reconciliation. I mean, they have a survey that looks at that, and there's a growing number of young people that don't understand just how severe apartheid was. And so I think some people do need to actually get the time and take the opportunities to find out exactly what happened, you know, over the course of, you know, let's say from 1652 onwards. And some people, I think it just evokes too much guilt, you know, too many strong emotions for them to actually take deep kind of introspective position.
Going back to crime statistics, the Centre also says that many crimes are unreported and access to justice remains elusive for many in the country. Why is that still the case, and is that a reality?
Yes, I mean, I think, as we mentioned in our press release, some forms of crime are quite underreported, and there can be differing reasons for that. For example, sexual offences. The conviction rate, according to, I think, the Medical Research Council, is only 8%. 8% of cases of rape only make it through to convictions. So that might be, lack of faith in the justice system. It could also be issues that women might experience when reporting crimes. It could be their financial dependence on men. Common robbery and assault, muggings. People might believe that this is not a serious issue, and often things like thefts of wallets, these kind of things don't go reported. So murder is often the best statistic for us to gauge what's happening in our country, because that has the highest level of reporting.
How do we then, as a society, resolve these underlying socio-economic issues like unemployment that you touch on, which is huge in this country, and improving community policing, for instance, in communities, in ensuring that we can assist with the situation?
I think for me it's, through the conversations that we have in the different communities we work in, is sometimes even CPFs and community policing also has its issues, but I think it is to have greater accountability in different institutions. I think we also, macroeconomic policies is something that we need to consider as well. And I think a part of it also is part of that conversation about reconciliation. Huge inequality in South Africa. Some people earning millions and millions of rands, or their families still have hundreds of millions of rands. So when it does come to the redistribution of wealth, that's a conversation that people obviously don't want to have. But I don't think that we can simply rely on governments to bring about these changes as well. Hundreds of years of inequality, it's not going to be solved by the current government.
In order to create socio-economic emancipation for some and social cohesion for others, we're asking this question, whether or not the flag, the old South African flag, should be banned. Let's take a look at, once again, the numbers there. What do they suggest on our poll today that we ask you? Of course, we would like you to participate in that poll. Should the public display of apartheid flag be criminalized? So 248 votes thus far, and I can tell you almost 80% of you are saying that flag should be gone. Let's take a look at what you are telling us on the Twitter handle. Brigo Brick says, white people have the right to strike, but to move forward, use the rainbow flag and not the one who killed my roots. These are some of your comments. Please keep them coming and continue with us here on the Newsroom. That was senior researcher for the Centre for the Study of Violence here in studio. Stephen, thank you so much for joining us here in studio.
Thank you.
And of course, we continue with that discussion. You can participate in it as well. But right now, it's time to take a look at your newspapers from around the globe. And we start off in Europe. The Times reports that Priti Patel is expected to become the second minister to be forced to leave the cabinet in less than a week after new allegations over secret meetings with Israeli officials. There it says Labour-run councils in 12 million tax avoidance as well. So that is the front page of the Times. Moving to New York, the Wall Street Journal says that Donald Trump opened the door to negotiations with North Korea, while 3 U.S. aircraft carrier strike groups prepare for a rare display of strength nearby in a carrot-and-stick approach to the nuclear standoff. And then finally in Israel, the Jerusalem Post reports that approving the proposed legislative amendments dubbed as the Jerusalem Bill is the most effective way to overcome the demographic challenge and fortify the Jewish majority in the capital. That's according to Jerusalem Affairs Minister Zeev Elkin. Now those are your newspapers from around the globe. We'll take a short break, and when we return, we go on with some more. You don't want to miss any of this. We'll probably also go a little bit live to Life Esidimeni. They are continuing today, as well as the Henry van Breda case. We'll keep you updated on all these things. And remember, the big strike in Gauteng, especially in Pretoria. If you are affected, you need to tweet me. I want to know what's happening in the capital.
Today, on Rights and Recourse, we will unpack the new Traditional Court Bill.
The idea of the bill is not to over-regulate, to basically set the principles.
The most important aspect of this bill is that it understands that customary law, by its nature, is consensual. That I have a right to affiliate, I have a right, therefore, to opt in, and I have a right to opt out.
The opt-out provision is basically one that you've got to respect the court in the sense of if you've been summoned, you've got to tell the clerk of the court at least that you're not willing to attend.
The challenge that I would like to throw to the Department of Justice, it has to come up with mechanisms of ensuring that people who exercise their right to opt out or to opt in are not in any way victimized.
Hashtag Rights with Dumila Mates on legal issues every Sunday at 2 o'clock Central African Time.
Welcome back to the newsroom. Now, roads have been blocked in Soshanguve in Pretoria as a taxi strike by the National Taxi Alliance gets underway this morning. There were some reports. They say that the Transport Department has failed to address their long-standing concerns, which include the taxi recapitalization program. Do you remember the taxi recapitalization program? Residents of Pretoria are also advised now to avoid the CBD this morning as the taxi drivers affiliated to the National Taxi Alliance march to the union buildings. Meanwhile, the Gauteng Education MEC Panyaza Lesufi has noted that the march coincides with matric exams and said that schools have been instructed to give opportunities to those who may miss their exams today. Now, the taxi associations in the Western Cape yesterday reiterated that they would not participate in today's planned taxi strike by the National Taxi Alliance. And also remember, Santaco also expressed that they will not participate in the strike. Now, we were supposed to have Santaco in the studio this morning just to give us an update and find out and tell us why is it that they're not participating in the strike of the NTA. So, instead, we have in studio the Gauteng Education Department. Now, they are urging parents to find alternative transport for their children today. In fact, that is the Gauteng Education Department. MEC Panyaza Lesufi says that with examinations in progress, the learners must not be disadvantaged by the taxi protests. Lesufi says that all the chief invigilators will give all grade 12 learners who might arrive late that opportunity to write their final exams. For more in the studio, we're joined by the spokesperson for the Gauteng Department of Basic Education, Mr. Steve Mabona. A very good morning to you, sir, and welcome.
Good morning.
How has the strike affected the writing of exams this morning?
Look, we have a contingency plan. As you will remember that previously we were affected by the so-called Black Monday, which we had to make sure that the learners are afforded an opportunity to write. So this morning we've been fielding so many calls coming from parents who indicated that the learners are stuck in traffic, some they can't reach the centers. Our advice was very clear to say they must push that the learners arrive at the centers so that they can then be afforded an opportunity to write. Whether they arrive late, they will be accommodated and write. But then those that cannot arrive at the centers that they are registered to write at, they then need to go to alternative centers. They will also be accommodated there.
What is the time period that you give for them to arrive at school? An hour, 2 hours? What is it?
Look, we gave the chief invigilators a discretion. They must utilize their discretion because remember the integrity of the examination must not be compromised as well. So each and every case must be managed at the center. They should be, working with the rapid teams, informing them on what is it that they are doing up to so far, so that the integrity thereof is not compromised. But then they will then have to not to disadvantage any learner. They will have to implore what we actually have agreed upon to say this is what we have to do in terms of managing the examination process. So paramount, we don't want to disadvantage any learner. Hence, we're encouraging them to, reach the centers. We've been saying that. Even yesterday, we've been encouraging parents to say, try to assist us, arrange the alternative transport on, so that learners can then reach their destination. But we have rerouted some of them this morning, advised them to go to centers where we have already made arrangements that when they arrive, they are going to be assisted. I mean, there's even some principals who went to an extent of, utilizing their resource to go and collect some of the learners who were stuck somewhere in the nearby area. So we are working very well just to make sure that the learners are afforded an opportunity to write, because them missing a paper, it's dire, because we then need to invoke probably administrative prescripts, or the last one will then be them afforded an opportunity to write their supplementary examination, and that is next year. So it's dire. So hence we are saying everyone in the country, when we think about facilitating an activity or a march thereof this time, we need to take in cognizance that this is a critical moment for the learners, especially the grade 12. I mean, they spent 12 years in the schooling environment. Now they need to move out. They can't now be destabilized by the process of us marching or aggrieved on other things. Hence we said probably this is a process where we think that we subvert the country. Because we can't be doing this.
Because you would find some students would ask the question, but it's not our fault. Why are we being held now liable for a transport system that can't get me to my school in time to write my exams?
Hence, we put an emphasis when we interacted with our chief invigilators and the principals and the district managers to say, let's not disadvantage our learners. Let's make it a point that we assist as much as we can. So when they interact with us, let's find a solution. How do we assist them? Let's not be an impediment of some sort. Let's make sure that we assist them, we allow them to come to a space, integrity, manage it, but make sure that we don't disadvantage learners and we don't have some advantage thereof, because if you're going to probably allow those ones that will be finished, you release them and probably they interact with those that have not started to write, probably there's some sense of advantage thereof that one will gain. So all those logistical arrangements, they should be in a position to can manage, because it's a 3-hour paper.
Yes.
So if one were to arrive probably almost at the tail end of the 3-hour, they should be in a position to say, this is how we manage. I mean, if they are already in a class quarantine somewhere, waiting for their time to start, and you don't disadvantage them, you give them their entire 3 hours, there's no way they're going to interact with the ones that they've already finished.
What if they arrive after the 3-hour paper? What then?
Look, like as I said, we have gave the chief invigilators to use a discretion, but it must be informed by them not disadvantaging any learner. That is paramount. The learner that has arrived must write.
All right. Now, are there any plans for those other grades that are not writing matric exams today?
Look, as we have interacted with all the principals to say the inner grades, your grade 11 downwards, those that are writing, some assessment of some sort, they need to be given an opportunity to do that at a later stage. Hence, we said to parents, if they feel that probably security or they feel, their children are not safe to go to school, they need to take that decision to say probably not allowing them to go, but then make a point that at least the principals will be in a position to say, this is the number of learners that did not come, and how do we accommodate them, make sure that at least if there was an assessment, they then need to be accommodated. But if there was nothing, then probably they don't need to disadvantage them as well. In terms of absenteeism, that there's demerits, all those other things that are happening in our environment. So you need to be mindful of that.
Now, the National Taxi Lines did indicate that they can't be held liable for the disruptions of the exams because they are saying that they've been negotiating with the Transport Minister for many months already to have a strike date and to come to an agreement. That didn't happen, and they have decided that this is the day, which impacts on you as the Department of Education. So have you had any discussions with the NTA or even the National Taxi Lines to discuss this issue of how it would impact on students?
Look, without even going into that space, what we say, and we gave the the group that marched on that Black Monday the same message, to say we understand. I mean, this is a constitutional democracy. Each and everyone who want to march, who want to organize themselves, they are allowed to do so. But let's all be mindful of the fact that this is a critical moment. This is a time where we cannot afford to disrupt schooling. We cannot disrupt the process of examination because the integrity thereof, we don't want results that will be questionable. Because if we disrupt in Gauteng, we might have an impact for the entire country. So we are saying to all of them, all people who want to really go and march, let's be mindful of the fact that we understand we have a right to march, we have a right to raise all the grievances that we have, but let's be reasonable. And we will also want to emphasize because we heard the last time when we were here that the organizers of the Black Monday, they are organizing another march for this month. We want to appeal, with them to say, let's not do it now. Let's be mindful of the fact that we are continuing with our examination, because we'll understand that they have children that are writing as well. The taxi industry, they have children that are writing as well. So why would you want to disadvantage your child because you have challenges that are facing you? What are you saying about the future of your children? Because that's what we are saying. I mean, if you don't give me an opportunity to write my final examination, I would probably not have a certificate. So what is it that must I do? Which door am I going to knock and it will be open, because I will be not having a senior certificate. So it's quite paramount that we need to be mindful of the fact that this is an important and critical moment where we cannot really afford to destabilize. Everyone who plan to march or to disrupt any schooling, it's not welcome.
Mr. Mabona, just in closing, for those that can't make it today to school at all, do they have another opportunity next year to write, which actually puts them in a disadvantage, doesn't it?
Definitely, but then we've been pushing, throughout to say, let's afford the learners, even if they arrive late, let's push that they arrive late, because them not arriving, it's dire. Yes, they might find themselves sitting for supplementary examination. Some, we might have to look at the results and they probably invoke your administrative prescripts. That is an internal way of managing learners who have not, write or not written actually. So there's a way on how we're going to be managing, but let's push that they at least arrive and write, their final examination. But we will be mindful of the fact that people don't need to be disadvantaged, because this is beyond their control.
Mr. Mabona, I thank you so much for your time, and good luck with the exams today for all the school children out there.
Thank you very much.
That was Mr. Steve Mabona. He is the Gauteng Department Education spokesperson here in studio with us. So, if you're en route, do not give up to your school to write. Go and write. Even if it's on the hour, last minute before the 3 hours, go in. You will be accommodated today. But right now, it's getting hot in here. Let's find out what the weatherman has got to say to us. Ozzy is up with your weather.
Thanks very much and warm welcome. And indeed, it is getting hot in here. Over the interior of South Africa, we are expecting temperatures to be in the low 30s for most parts. But first, let's take a look at your satellite image, where we're seeing lots of clouds over the central interior, mostly going to the southern parts in SADC. And over South Africa, we are expecting a development due to a transport of moisture from the tropical regions into the interior of South Africa, where we are going to get up to 60% chance of thunder showers over the eastern parts of South Africa to the northeastern. That's your Limpopo, Mpumalanga, and the northern parts of KwaZulu-Natal, including the whole of Swaziland and the southern parts of Mozambique. Otherwise, 30% chance of thunder showers forecast for the northern parts. Over the southern parts, we are expecting partly cloudy skies to clear skies. And along the coastal regions of Eastern Cape, very isolated showers can be expected for today. Over the interior of Botswana, going to Namibia, Angola, 30% chance of thunder showers expected, going to 60 over the central interior. That's your DRC and the northern parts of Angola for today. Tomorrow, still expecting similar conditions, partly cloudy skies with 30 to 60% chance of thunder showers over the northern half of South Africa and the eastern parts. Otherwise, do expect isolated thunder showers over most parts of SADC and getting clear as you move towards the western parts of South Africa. We do have warnings today, high fire danger over the eastern parts of Western Cape for today. So please do take note of that. Do not start any unnecessary fires, and wind speeds around these areas up to 10 kilometers per hour, going to the northern parts of Northwest as well. And if you do see those fires, please do report to your authorities, and wind speeds over the central interior up to a maximum of 20 kilometers per hour for today. Pretoria, you will be at a maximum of 34 degrees for today. We are expecting afternoon to evening thunder showers over Limpopo, going to Mpumalanga and the far northern parts of Gauteng for today. Over the central interior, clear skies can be expected. Bloemfontein at 28 degrees, City of Durban at 23, up to 60% chance of showers forecast for today. Kopmani at 21 and Port Elizabeth, DR at a maximum of 25 and get clear over the interior of the Cape region. Uppington very hot at a maximum of 35. Sutherland at a maximum of 26. City of Cape Town hot today at a maximum of 30. And if you will be in Springbok, a maximum of 31. With our neighbors, we are expecting very isolated showers over the interior of Botswana, a band going to the interior of Namibia. Windhoek will be mostly sunny though, with a maximum of 32 degrees, 21 for Walvis Bay. Luderitz sitting at a maximum of 22 and partly cloudy skies along the coastal regions. Victoria Falls, maximum of 38, Maung at 39, 37 for Gaborone with partly cloudy skies. Bulawayo at 34, 33 for Harare. If you will be in Nampula, maximum of 33 with partly cloudy skies. Maputo at 33 and very isolated showers can be expected in Maputo for today. Over Madagascar, over the interior, isolated thunder showers, but going along the east coastal regions, mostly towards the northern parts, clear skies expected with Antananarivo at a maximum of 33, 29 for Victoria, and going to Port Louis, sunny skies, a maximum of 27. Over Moroni, mostly sunny skies, and a maximum of 30 is forecast for today. Over the interior, DRC, 60% chance of thunder showers forecast, going to the northern parts of Angola, Luanda at a maximum of 27, 28 for Libreville. Bangui will be mostly sunny, going to the northern parts or along the borders of DRC. We are expecting just partly cloudy skies to clear skies. No much rain can be expected, but from the interior, going to the southern parts and just before the borders, up to 60% chance of thunder showers and 80 going to Burundi. Kampala will be at a maximum of 24 degrees, 23 for Nairobi, Mombasa at a maximum of 30, and Dar es Salaam sitting at a maximum of 31 for today. Over the northern parts, the Sahara Desert, clear skies over most parts can be expected and along the coastal regions. But for Tunisia, few clouds will be seen for today. And again, in Morocco, very isolated showers over the interior towards the southern parts, just partly cloudy skies. But along the coastal regions, we are expecting 30 to 60% chance of showers. Over Nigeria, just along the coastal, moving to the interior, partly cloudy skies over most parts of the country. Going to Central Republic, just partly cloudy skies. And again, along the borders of DRC, just partly cloudy. But immediately after that, up to 60% chance of thunder showers forecast for today. Ethiopia, just partly cloudy. But the coastal regions, we are expecting 30% chance of showers. That's most parts of Somalia. Moving to the interior, clear skies again over the Sahara Desert. Cairo will be mostly sunny with a maximum of 26, 19 for Jerusalem, Riyadh at 30, Makkah at a maximum of 34, 23 for Addis Ababa, mostly sunny and partly cloudy in Ethiopia. Khartoum 37, 33 is your maximum in Agadez. Let's go to the western parts, where in Nigeria we are expecting 30% chance of showers along the coastal regions. But moving to the interior, just partly cloudy skies for today. Niamey at a maximum of 37, 30 for Dakar, Senegal. Bamako at a maximum of 37. If you are in Abidjan, a maximum of 31. Going to the northern parts, Rabat, maximum of 23. Partly cloudy skies to cloudy skies. Algiers at a maximum of 19. Marrakech at 30. And Tunis sitting at a maximum of 21. That is all. Now you know.
Sports Live, Saturday and Sundays at 8:30 p.m.
We are your eyes in all major events around the world.
A wonder not seen in the United States in almost 100 years.
It looks like the sky of a different world. You see the stars out during the day. You see a sunset 360 degrees all around you.
Before you leave, make sure that Rob Byrne is taking you through traffic alert all around South Africa.
All we can do is stick to what we do and focus on our own job and not focus on them.
The Boks will also don the red jersey in this match to mark the 25th anniversary of rugby unity in South Africa.
An update on all major currency to guide you. A story of women in jail told in pictures by Fatima Mir through art that will blow your mind. Set the agenda for the day with Morning Live. Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa is a South African politician, a skilled negotiator, businessman, activist, and former trade union leader. He was a visiting professor of law at Stanford University in the United States in October 1991. When Nelson Mandela was released from prison, Ramaphosa was chairperson of the National Reception Committee, former Secretary General of the African National Congress in 1991. Cyril was head of the negotiation team of the ANC in negotiating the end of apartheid with the National Party government. Elected the chairperson of Parliament's Constitutional Assembly in 1994 and played a central role in the government of national unity. He is the current deputy president under President Jacob Zuma since 2014.
I guess as deputy president of the ANC, I would have been aware. Let us move forward to build a credible and honest, patriotic leadership of the African National Congress. Let us move ahead to build a renewed ANC, a united ANC, an ANC that is united from top to bottom, bottom upwards. That is the type of ANC that our people want.
Siyavuma.
Did you know the big hole digging started in 1871 and ended on the 14th August 1914? The hole produced 2,722 kgs of diamonds. However, one diamond as huge as 490 carat of stone found in the open prior 1868 gave them the interest to dig. Extracted from 22.5 million tons of soil. Today, the hole sits at a breathtaking 214 meters deep. Kimberley Big Hole attracts tourists from all over the world, taking a vintage tram past the city, then cycling around the Big Hole.
It's 10:00 hours Central Africa time, Jumbo Africa. A warm welcome to the second hour. I'm Elvis Preslin.
I'm Kendall Makamat.
We will be with you until 12 o'clock today, and the focus today is on Pretoria. All the residents there, you got problems because there's a taxi strike happening in the capital city. And that's why we're asking you this question.
Exactly, and there are quite a lot of people who have been affected by this already. Students, workers, everybody really has been affected. And we want to find out from you, though. Share with us, how has it affected you today?
Of course, if you're writing exams, you heard earlier that the students or the learners are affected by that. Tyrone Richard says, my receptionist is late.
All right. Budam Munamedi says, yes, I use the train most of the time, so I'm good. Yeah, that's what you said a little earlier as well.
Some of your comments. But listen, we're also focusing on the Nelson Mandela Foundation that says it is time to ban the old South African flag after the furore it created around Black Monday. Of course, people were waving the old flag and singing the old anthem as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're asking you on our poll for today, should the public display of the old South African flag be criminalized? 287 votes in, Elvis.
80% are saying yes, and only 20% are saying no. But you're also tweeting us on this matter.
Richard Matsabu says, in the new generation, we actually don't see each other by color. This old flag, really? This old flag is just bringing more attention to the future of South Africa. The flag should be banned, Richard says.
Brigo Brick says, white people have the right to strike, but to move forward, use the rainbow flag. Very good advice. And not the old one who killed my roots.
Interesting. Interesting comments there.
Keep them coming, we'll read them as we continue. Okay, there's another one.
Oh, I've got another one. Spissy Slimklongo says, the old SA flag is a symbol of oppression, segregation and human rights violations. Waving it is tacit support of that regime.
Well, there you have it. Keep them coming. But we're also asking a sports question. Well, Bafana camp, Stuart Baxter, not so happy.
Not so happy with Thulani Serero. He does it again. He says this time he's not going to play for Bafana unless Stuart Baxter promises him game time. Now, what do you make of that? You know, should he be dropped for good or not?
Well, this one from Matthew says, no, he should not be dropped. Why not, Matthews? If he's talking back to the coach, it's like a child talking back to his parent, and you can't spank him, by the way, now.
Absolutely, yes. Now, we've got Mfura says, no need to drop him. To me, he's just given us a hint that he's retiring from national team. If Serero can guarantee Baxter he'll score the goal that will take us to Russia, then there's more. Oh, yeah, then we must beg him. But if he can't guarantee that, then he must stay wherever he is. Very interesting one.
That's a very good one. Well, that's what we have for you, but right now let's take a look at your news headlines. The National Taxi Alliance strike brings some parts of Gauteng to a standstill. The N2 freeway in the Western Cape is reopened following yesterday's devastating fires in the area. And the Randburg Magistrates Court will be starting today with the sentencing proceedings in a case of assault against the former Higher Education Deputy Minister Mduduzi Manana. Those are your headlines, but before we go any further, let's find out from Kendall what's happening on the sports front.
Elvis, thank you very much. Good morning to you. This is what we have for you in the sports today. Attacking midfielder Thulani Serero does it again, this time snubbing Bafana by refusing to honor his call-up unless he's guaranteed game time, something the Cage will not do.
it's an honour enough to be called to a national camp, then he may as well stay where he is.
It's always seeing a great shot there.
South African cricket fans are in for a treat this year as the Ram Slam T20 Challenge is set to feature a roster full of Proteas players.
Don't take nothing away from him. He's one of the best fighters, but I don't think he's gonna last in front.
Zolani Tate is about to come into a windfall as he prepares to defend his WBC Bantamweight title against compatriots Moniso Gonya. Should make for a really great fight, that one. More about all of that a little later. Do stay with Elvis as he's got very riveting news.
Thank you, Kendall. Top story this hour. The South African Post Office and the Social Security Agency are meeting in Parliament again this morning. Now, Treasury is expected to brief a joint Scopa and Social Development Committee meeting about the impasse between Sassa and the South African Post Office. Co-chairperson Themba Godi says the joint committee expects feedback that would guarantee that social grants will be paid on the 1st of April when the CPS contracts end at the end of March next year. Let's go there live.
Very well. But I did not want to respond to part of what he has said now. I want us to deal with this, and I'm sure I'll talk to the issue that you have raised as we conclude. I want us to deal with the issues arising out of the statement. Comrade Boy?
No, Chairperson, it's in our interest as a collective and a team of people to make sure that we stick to the type of mandates that we have presented. Because we have formed a joint committee for those particular purposes, to be able to make sure that what the IMC is expressing today is what we wanted to achieve. And we want to be seated here and accepting what the IMC has been able to put in front of us as the joint committee. And given that the joint committee at this moment, and hearing what the IMC have said, because we even went at length to say that if ever the IMC doesn't have a representative or somebody will call upon the president to come and account about this particular development. Where we seated today, we could feel that there is work that has been done. And just as we have been saying that this is what is going to happen, that has happened, the suspicions, all those things, I think as SCOPA governed by the type of approach that we have taken, and as members of SCOPA under your leadership would follow them as we have usually done that. The detail that Honorable Hlengwa is talking about, or what other concerns that are being expressed, that is our job. We'll never deviate, and you have never asked us to deviate from that commitment. That's what I've listened to you all the time, that we have not said that we are going to change. You say, let's concede and accept at this particular moment what the IMC have presented to us. And then on Tuesday, the 21st, after what the IMC has presented, you have asked us to come back and be again informed about the particular progress that would have been made. And then it's at that level, I thought, we then look at what Treasury and all other entities have come to a conclusion, so that it then becomes important to get into that detail. Because it's in our interest, and it's in the interest of South Africans that we prevail, and it's in the interest of accountability that we prevail. So I wanted to second you on that one, that let's take patience along with what we are doing, and let's put trust in what we've been hoping for, and then let's get into the details on Tuesday. Besukela Mamu Chairperson, Mamu Sihlalo, siyathanda ukumamela nawe simamele. If awuyenzi uzosmosha. So, Chairperson, let's accept what you are proposing. Let's accept what the IMC is saying through Minister Chief, that on the Friday all commitments, signing of letters, kissing of each other will be happening. But on Tuesday, the 21st, we'll still be expecting that detail to be forwarded to us. And that's where we should be able to then make up that is there honesty or there's no honesty, or what is our suspicions about. Because one of the things that we have always committed ourselves within our own committee in SCOP is that we should never micromanage departments, and also make sure that we do undermine the structures of governance, because there is an executive and we should give a respect to that, and we should trust it and be able to work with it to resolve the problem. That in itself talks to the separation of powers, and we must maintain that type of an approach and that type of an outlook and an analysis, because if we don't do that, we'll end up micromanaging anybody, and micromanagement is one thing that will be derailing the whole process. So I will plead to you that let's stick to and let's accept the IMC's commitment at this particular moment without suppression of clarity for members of parliament, because it's in their interest that they should always be clarified and be made sure that they understand what is in the process. Okay. Even now, I haven't seen anything wrong when members themselves express their views, because they're also human beings and they represent their own constituencies. They are expressing that. But at the end of the day, let it be governed by respect and being able to say that whilst we hold the executive accountable, we should always respect them also and trust them in what they are trying to do. Okay. So that beyond that, we will be seeing each other on the 21st in that particular detail.
All right.
And maybe all these reports that have come to us in front of us by default, we should keep them there, and then on the 21st, we'll be engaging with anybody that would have been sent to come and talk to us about that particular topic. But it's been clear now that the only thing is the IMC saying to us that DMPP, what the monitoring and evaluation, will be representing all entities or all departments, or how is that structure going to be working? Because we just need to be sure that from here on, who are we holding accountable?
All right. Okay. All right. Comrade Kuno.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thanks to giving me this opportunity. Chairperson, as I read the IMC report on page 2, second paragraph, I agree with what they're saying. But Chairperson, what is causing the anxiety in this meeting is that IMC did not meet only yesterday because we've asked them to meet. They've been meeting since, and I think that's what they are also agreeing to. They've met before, but the problem is that there was no progress. If you want to face the truth and the urgency of the matter, Chairperson. So that's why it's caused the anxiety that we have today. That if we have a report in front of us from Treasury, if you remember exactly, Chairperson, this is why it's important for us to look at the minutes of the last meeting. The minutes were saying that we need to, we're giving Treasury chance to go look at both reports, the report from CSIR and the reports from both entities, and try to get us a report. Then they will be reporting back to us today. And because we were going to, we were not sure how we were going to meet the IMC, if you remember very well, as we were told that the chairperson of the IMC was the president. So, and we knew that it was going to be difficult for us to call the president here and come and give us a report. And now that we have the IMC in front of us and we have the Treasury report, I don't think, Chairperson, it's going to delay us if we give them 5 minutes. And not that 5 minutes won't take away the meeting that we have already agreed to for next week, Tuesday, just to brief us, because we already have this report. It's going to be a public report. I think it's already gone to the public. If they could, allay or try to help us with this, the anxiety that we have, if they could at least take 5 minutes to brief us on their report, so that when they go out of here, we have commitment from all parties that are supposed to be taking part in trying to resolve this problem of payments of grants, and making sure that by April next year, 1st April, we are able to do what the Constitutional Court has asked of us. And I think this is what we are asking for, Chairperson. Just 5 minutes for them to report on what they've written. Thanks, Chair.
All right. Well, Comrade Boy has touched on it a bit, even though I thought I would talk to it at the end, that when we get the report on the 21st and even beyond, we can go back and say what happened. But for today, I really would want to prevail on comrades that let's focus on this report from the IMC and train our focus on them delivering. Because going back to finding out, I think it's a question of sequencing. What is strategic at this point? What we want is that there must be an agreement, a commitment that delivers. Then you can then have the luxury to go back and dig on things. But if we do that and don't achieve anything, then we'll not have achieved anything. I think that's the point. And I really would want to appeal that if there isn't anything that we want to raise arising out of this report and the processes that they have outlined, well, let's call it a day. Tim?
Yeah. See, all I wanted to say, and to be very brief, is I wanted a commitment from yourself that Scopa will be calling Treasury to make this letter to the acting CEO a report to us, because that was our mandate, our instruction to them. And then I wanted to make it quite clear to everyone involved in Sassa that what they've been saying up to now, based on that report, has been misleading and dishonest, and that we will take action against them, because lying to Parliament and misleading Parliament is an offence, and we will take action on that. I want to make that quite clear today, that we will take that action. But I want a commitment that Treasury are going to report to us on this particular letter. Thank you.
Chairperson, can I say this, but let me apologize, Honorable Nyame. I wasn't talking, I was actually reminding the Chair that Konu's hand has been up, so that when you finish, she actually comes in. I wouldn't want to be a naughty Chair, so I apologize for that. Can I also come to this point, that the reviewal that we spoke about, honestly, was that CEO of Sassa had finalized a particular, closed the issue of SAPO after correspondence. And the reviewal was the closure. But after the letter from the Sassa CEO had requested, as in her capacity as a CEO, that this process, we are being instructed by the joint sitting that Treasurer, the only person, can do that reviewal of the process which was closed by the CEO. So I don't think this review was what they have been doing. Also, I don't think Treasury was supposed to review other things other than reopen, which we were told that due to the letter from Sassa CEO, there was confirmation that it has been reviewed. Therefore, they can go and talk, because you can't talk when you have closed a particular process. I wanted to make this reviewal process to be understood in what it meant and what was to be done. Thank you. Other processes can be investigated. I'm very open with that. But we had also had Honorable Shengwa saying, can't we have two processes? I won't fight with that process as long as that process is not delaying what we seek to achieve. Thank you.
Okay, Ross, then Wilson, Kekane, Mente, Shengwa. I'm sure. Oh, yeah. I think after Wilson, I'll give Malchus, because she hasn't spoken before.
No, Chairperson. Strategically going forward, as you've mentioned, I think we need to support the Inter-ministerial committee. in terms of the endeavour to find a solution. However, I note that it's still an interim solution that you're looking for, and perhaps that will play out into a permanent solution once you find some common ground with the South African Post Office, hopefully, because there's a lot of effort that's been put in by this Post Office. But we certainly agree with you with regards to the intervention of the banks at this point in time. I think it's a responsible decision, and I think that needs to be noted. And then just in terms of the comments made by the Honourable Boy, just to make the point that, of course, we don't want to micromanage departments from the position of SCOPA, but that we were necessitated to do it because of the. We were obligated to do it, actually, because of the timeframes put by the Constitutional Court. And I think we did the responsible thing in terms of our involvement in this. But it's certainly not our objective always to micromanage any entity or department. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Wilson?
Thank you, Chairperson. I am referring to the report given to us by the Honourable Lindiwe. Minister, just if you can perhaps answer a question for me. You talk about the intervention, including partnership between Sassa and the following entities, including SAPO, Home Affairs, and the State Security Agency. Can you please give us some clarification of exactly what role the State Security Agency plays in this particular situation? Thank you.
Okay, Malchus, sorry, I'll come to you after her.
Thanks a lot, Honourable Chairperson. I'm not going to thank the IMC because everyone did it already, but we appreciate what you did. But to me, what is important is when it comes to this letter, we would like to know who distributed it, because that is important, because this letter is addressed to the acting CEO of Sassa. And there's a lot of important points on it. You know, you are correct to say we can discuss it later. But the importance is, how did it get here? Because it's a very useful letter, this. Thanks a lot.
Comrade Kekana?
No, thank you, Chair. Chair, I just want to assist. Maybe we are discussing this thing with the proper understanding as to what is it that we want out of the process and what was our mandate. Because what we need to do, that is as joint committees, we need to check as to what is it that we wanted to achieve that is in the process. In our deliberations, in the very last meeting, we agreed that we have reached a deadlock. That is in terms of our deliberations. We then took a decision to say National Treasury must go and review, that is the presentation and everything, and refer that is to the IMC, for the IMC to come and report to us. And I also want to clarify as to what is the mandate or the role of the IMC in this whole thing and their mandate. Because their mandate is very clear, to unlock the deadlock and make sure that we comply with the Constitutional Court. That's what they must do. And that does not take the responsibility that is from us, because we can have separate processes. As SCOPA and that is the Portfolio Committee, we are still going to continue, that is with the engagement, that is on some of, if we suspect that there was wrongdoing. And we still need to do that. But that's a separate process on the payment, because that is an issue that we are referring to IMC, that is to deal with, the compliance that is of the Constitutional Court. And the other issues that who misled us and blah, 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 that is our responsibility, that is as Parliament, to go down and investigate, that is all those issues. Now, I think if we can clarify these processes so that the colleagues don't think that, somebody is trying to hide something. We are not doing that. And as SCOPA, I think we are known, that is for raising, that is these issues. Okay. All right. And if there's proper clarity that is on that, maybe we can close this meeting. Okay. And on the engagement, let me support what Honourable Boy is saying. We can only engage on the report that is of the IMC after the 21st. Because we'll be preempting, that is the report that we don't have.
Comrade Mente. Then Fengwa, and hopefully we say Pala Itaya with. Yes?
Chair, andiyazi Russia yani namhlanje. Chair, I do not have a problem with what the IMC has to do. They must carry out their duties, bring us the report next week. That's fine. But what we are not going to let go is the fact that even IMC acknowledges a delay, a deliberate delay. And we need to get to the bottom of who caused the delay. That is a very important issue. Someone tried to ensure that SAPO is not going to get anything. And if ever we are not going to deal with the issue that is here in this National Treasury letter, which supposedly is not ours, but well, unfortunately, in terms of PAIA, it's here and we are going to engage it. If when do we engage it, then that's up to you. But we are going to get to the bottom of who is causing the delay. That's what I'm saying to you. Anything else that the IMC has to do, they have to do freely, so no problem.
All right. Thank you. Lengwa?
Chair. Chairperson.
Yeah.
With all due respect, you see, we were told of the IMC before. Maybe I'm ngihlale ngqo emhlolweni. So not beat around the bush. Ngonje. Chair. The IMC were told about it before. Nothing happened then. The process, Chair, collapsed. It was water running through our fingers. Manje, if we do not raise these issues to conscientize the IMC of the problems ourselves when they're already here, I don't think we're doing the process any favors, because the IMC was long there. And whilst they were there, we were dealing with these things. We were being lied to A to Z. Manje, I really don't understand Lumchacho 180 kilometers per hour to say, no, there's a putu money. I don't understand, Chair. I honestly don't understand. We were told Uguti Upungane is the chairperson of the IMC by our officials. But no, the IMC is chaired by Upungane. When you made an inquiry, we were told Uguti it's not him. So can we sit here in good faith and then accept Njuguti the IMC has been functional in a manner that's satisfactory? We can't. Manje, every time we're trying to raise the issues which have been the stumbling blocks from our own perspective to enrich the work of the IMC, there's a Chahile attitude. And I put it to you, Chair, at some point, this is going to come back to haunt us. Ngoba, we had the IMC before. What we call. What joy did we derive from that? Secondly, Chairperson, we requested, Chair, minutes from the so-called workshop. We requested meetings from the 13 odd meetings which had taken place, and that technical committees had not met and so on. And we, as a committee, asked the questions, where was the IMC when all those shortcomings played themselves out? Responses were not received. Now, we come here in good faith, and say, well, because the IMC has said this, we must accept it as the alpha and omega of the reality. When the IMC itself, as far as I'm concerned, has contributed to this kind of collapse. Okay. I don't think it's fair, Chairperson. All right.
But all right. No. I want us to do this, comrades. I want us to give a minister, because we end up talking amongst ourselves, and they're sitting here and saying, but why are we here? You know. So well, that's why this cause of tour inkokheli bona ngapha kwentaba. So it's my responsibility as a chair to always try and look at what is strategic at any given point in time, so that we don't at any point, we don't get sidetracked by other issues, legitimate as they might be. But let's always look at what is it that can take us forward. I will hand over to you, Comrade Minister, too.
Thanks, Chair, and the co-chairs, and all the members of SCOPA and Social Development Portfolio Committees. Firstly, to express gratitude for the positive attitude of SCOPA, because the majority of you who spoke have given us hope and encouragement to go forward to ensure that these social grants will be paid on the 1st of April 2018. And that is our attitude as this IMC. What drives us? I think it is very clear that we have to follow the orders of the Constitutional Court in this matter. That is why we are working around the clock to ensure that this is done. Even yesterday, we left the meeting towards midnight, and we also met this morning just to give you a sense of the agency that we attach to this particular issue of these social grants. As we have indicated in our statement, we want to ensure that by next week, Friday, all these cooperation agreements in the main between Sassa and SAPO will be signed to ensure that we can move with speed. There are other government departments also that are going to be involved. Home Affairs, there was a specific question about state security. State security is part of the IMC, so they have an interest in this matter, and we feel also as the IMC that they can play a key role also on matters around cyber security within this particular problem. So it is a general involvement by them. On the issues that have been raised by colleagues, on the details of even the cost and so on, all those will be made evident when these cooperation agreements are signed between the affected parties. So all these details and finality, we'll know them by next week, Friday. On illegal deductions, I think the Constitutional Court is very clear on this matter that they should not be allowed, only under certain circumstances which have not yet been obtained. It was also brought to our attention as the IMC that there's apparently one case in KwaZulu-Natal where a court took a decision contrary to this understanding. We are appealing that matter, and they were seeking legal advice whether we can't go direct to the Constitutional Court, because our understanding is that the Constitutional Court is the apex court and the court of last resort. On the issue of other parties, no, maybe before I get there, just to clarify the issue of the National Treasury. Even though I'm still new in the IMC, but my understanding is that the National Treasury reports to the IMC because they are part of the IMC. That is why they gave this report to us yesterday as to what was asked of them in terms of this intervention. So we've accepted some of their proposals. That is why our report takes into account what National Treasury's assessment has been. So I thought I needed to clarify that there's no contradiction between what the National Treasury has done and what we are coming forward with. And they were part of this meeting yesterday. Other additional capacity will be dependent also on these cooperation agreements between, in the main, Sassa and SAP. We are also intending also to meet other parties because we need to make sure that these social grants will be distributed by another entity other than CPS. So that's our main occupation. So all those issues about the banks and so on will become evident as we go around, especially when we have developed an updated project plan towards the 1st of April 2018. On other issues that have been raised, I want to assure Hlengwa that we're going to turn you from a doubting Thomas to be more positive with the other portfolio committee members. On the issue of the letter, I do not know who distributed the letter, but definitely it was not authorized by the IMC. It's not our letter, as it is clear, is the letter from National Treasury. But maybe in time you will be informed as to who distributed the letter, because obviously somebody sent it here, but I don't know who that person is. Want to emphasize as well the point that we made, that no card will expire after December 31st. Sassa has made sure that all the necessary extension on the cards are done so that we can reassure all card holders that they will not be affected. Because our main aim as well is to ensure that we protect all the beneficiaries of the social assistance grant. Because we know that these grants have changed the lives of our people, so we're going to leave no stone unturned as this IMC to make sure that everything is done. So I want to make that assurance on behalf of the IMC that we'll leave no stone unturned in moving forward on this project. So give us time. Even now, from now, we're going to be meeting as the IMC to reflect on the comments that your committee has done, but also our own initiative, because we want to move, ensuring that all the details of the project plan is very clear. As I've indicated, the DG at DPME will be coordinating this technical committee as we move forward. And as we emphasize, every week the IMC will be receiving these reports. Thank you. I hope we have answered your anxieties on this matter. Please be assured that as the IMC, we are willing to, from time to time, to report to appropriate committees of Parliament. But we need time to do what we are supposed to do without any problem. Thanks.
All right. Thanks very much. Chair, I just need to get clarity on the answer to my question, because I don't believe it was fully answered. My concern, Chair, is that the plan is to have an agreement next week by Friday. That plan is going to involve using commercial entities, i.e. the commercial banks, to help with this process. So therefore, they're going to be providing a service to the state.
Which question?
My point is, how are we going to go through a procurement process by next Friday that has commercial banks
doing the work? There's no procurement process right now.
Can we just get clarity on that? That's all I want.
So I was saying that the main government is going to be doing this thing. That's why this cooperation agreement, especially between Sassa and SAPO. So depending on the project plan that is going to be updated, then other parties can be thought of, but the main drivers will be government.
Right. Okay. Now, I just wanted to say, Comrade Minister, that all of us here, even those who merely appreciated and stopped there, have this concern because of the delays. And so we would want to see progress. Yes, we want to encourage it, but what is the word? Will only be satisfied once the act is done. Before that, we hear you. But we don't want to be negative. We want to encourage. We want to encourage progress. It's in the interest of our people. We don't have time. We can't afford to play with the anxiety, the fears, the frustrations of the most vulnerable in our society. It cannot be, and it should not be. And this problem cannot and should not, be used for any other thing than for us as leaders to really seek to find solutions. to always be solution-oriented. So I want to thank you. We're going to write a letter to you for the 21st. The IMC, we're inviting the IMC. We're no longer going to want to listen to the officials. We've long gone past them. We want to hear from you as the political leadership. So you'll bring all your technical people to come and answer technical questions. But we are expecting a progress report from you. Would like the details. When you tie it down on Friday, please, can you send copies to us so that members can have them before we come to the meeting, so that we can then be able to interrogate and go through those details with you on the Tuesday. But thanks very much, Comrade Minister, and all the ministers and the officials for the hard work that you have put and for being responsive to the call of Parliament. Thanks very much, comrades. Our meeting is done.
Well, there you have it. There's a deal on the table. We'll wait for next week, Friday, when the details will be flushed out and, of course, agreements being signed between South African Post Office and Sassa. Whew, a relief for all those pensioners out there, I might add. Well, we'll wait for next Friday. Now, our theme for today, we're focusing on the waving of the South African flag, of course, on Black Monday. Now, South African protesters were seen carrying the old South African flag at last week's Black Monday march, which was organized to raise awareness about the alleged rise in farm murders in South Africa. But many South Africans saw the march where the old South African flag was waved as highly offensive. The old flag is widely considered a painful symbol of apartheid. Now, there were some comparisons that have been drawn between the orange, white and blue one and the Nazi flag, and there have also been calls that displaying it should be made illegal and criminalized. Now, for more on this, we're joined by Neo Makatsanyane, who is the National Secretary for the Political Education and Research at Black First, Land First. A very good morning to you, sir. And welcome.
Good morning, Brother Elvis.
First and foremostly, your thoughts on the Black Monday march. Do you think that that march was justified to highlight the extent of how farmers are being killed in this country?
Brother Elvis, we need to understand that those who dispossessed us of our land are in no moral grounds. Because if you look at this march, Black Monday march, it's on a basis that is very hypocritical, because according to universal laws, for every action there is a reaction. Mm-hmm. So even if you look and go down into detail, the hypocrisy of this is far-fetched, because we have our black mothers and also our brothers and sisters that are exploited at the farm, and nothing is being said about it. It happens on a daily, to such an extent that we even have oral sex. We have videos of oral sex that are performed by our mothers on these farmers. So it's very hypocritical, and we in the Black First, Land First movement of Azania reject the Black Monday. It is undermining to us black people that settler white colonialists can actually have a gathering of that magnitude, and in such a treasonous way and act of waving the old apartheid flag, which stands for nothing good and reminds us continuously of the crime committed against black people.
What do you think what is the waving of the old South African flag really signifies to all South Africans?
Okay, we in the Black First, Land First movement of Azania concluded that the waving of the old apartheid flag represents the true feelings of those who stole our land. Because we need to remember that this flag symbolizes it's an eternal symbolism for atrocities and injustices committed against black people. Mm-hmm. And we also need to remember that this flag, in the hands of the oppressor, it stands as a monument of the genocide that's committed against black people.
Now, they would argue that some of those pictures that we've seen is not part and parcel of the march. It came back from about 5 or 10 years ago when some of these pictures were taken. What's your response to that, and does it really make a difference?
No, it does not make a difference, because this is just propaganda. These people are trying to extract themselves from a crime. We need to understand that when a crime is committed, and you benefit from the crime, you are guilty as charged. Mm-hmm. So these people continue to be beneficiaries of this crime till today.
Mm-hmm. hate crime is criminalized. There are calls now for this flag as well as the old anthem to be criminalized. Your thoughts on that?
The hate crime bill is conceptually flawed because it does not give a historical context of even the definition of racism. So it's conceptually flawed, and we believe that in order to have a decisive result, we need to take decisive measures. We need to have a clear demarcation line. We need to be anti-racist or anti-racism. Because that's the only effective way that we can actually have clarity according to our position and direction that we're going to take with regards to combating and ultimately ending racism.
But would it assist if this flag is banned and criminalized?
We in the Black First Land First movement of Azania believe that yes, the banning of the flag, of the old apartheid flag, should be preceded by the direct seizure of power, by the direct seizure of the means of production by the black proletariat, which land return is central. Only then can we speak about the banning of the flag, because it would be artificial. It would be based on artificial grounds of reconciliation, and also remembering that in a racist, capitalist, class antagonistic society like ours, there are no grounds for reconciliation.
But how do you then see the empowerment of the proletariat based on those grounds?
How do I see the empowerment of the black
proletariat? Yes.
Yes, the empowerment of the black proletariat. We need to. First and foremost, if the ANC or the ANC-led government is serious about radical economic transformation, or the ANC is serious about radical economic transformation, it needs to utilize the state apparatus in the interest of the black majority who put it in power. It needs to utilize the state apparatus in such a way that it suppresses old remnants of an old society. It suppresses racist maneuverings that seek to undermine and place black people at the level of subhumanity.
I just want to for you to take a look at the poll that we're conducting today, because we want to find out from South Africans and people on the African continent whether or not this flag should be criminalized and banned, and what impact that would have. Let's see if we have the poll up there and see what the number suggests. As you can see there, 287 votes in. The public display of the apartheid flag, should it be criminalized? And you can see there, 80% says yes. Only 20% are suggesting no. What do you think that 20% belong to?
Obviously, the 20% it's from the white ruling class, and the 20. We need to understand that due to the depoliticizing program of the ANC, unfortunately, even from the petty English urban bourgeoisie, our black brothers and sisters from that background have a misconception of racism, because racism is actually discrimination on the basis of subjugation and control. So we need to go back and reflect upon these things. You know,
we spoke to AfriForum a little bit early in the program, and some of them feel that the old flag is part of our history and that some part of our heritage. Your views on that, and should that still be part of our heritage and history?
No. We need to remember that colonization and apartheid has nothing to do with our legacy and history as black people. We reject it with the highest contempt. AfriForum, we need to remember that it's a racist wing organization that represents the interest of the white ruling class here in Azania. So we reject, and we don't even take into consideration what AfriForum has to say. Whatever AfriForum says or whatever its position is has nothing in interest for us, the black proletariat.
Now, there was also suggestions that the Black Monday March, if those were black people, that there would be police intervention. You would not be having a free reign to walk to the city of Cape Town. Your thoughts on that?
Yes, this is quite true. You know, I was expecting, in fact, that the gallant Minister of Police, Minister Fikile Mbalula, you know, he's very determined in actually putting an end to crime, and even made it a point to be rational and say he's going to deal with people who are criminals. But now he's turning a blind eye, and law enforcement is also turning a blind eye. Where is the law? This again shows you that the state apparatus, it is in the interest of the white ruling class.
The Economic Freedom Fighters says that they will meet another Black Monday in the streets. Will you be joining that march?
Our differences with the Economic Freedom Fighters, those are secondary differences. we are willing to put our ideological differences aside with the economic freedom fighters. If they are going to that march, that is, we will go, because we believe that this is it's one of such marches or such arrogance displayed by the settler white community contributes to the primary contradiction here in Azania.
In closing, 30 seconds, how do we resolve this issue?
We need to have an anti-racism bill, which BLF submitted in Parliament, whereby those who are guilty of racism should go 20 years in prison and even lose their land.
Neo, thank you so much for your time and joining us in studio, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Brother Elvis.
That was Neo Makatsanyani. He is the National Secretary for Political Education and Research at Black First, Land First. Now, the life Esidimeni arbitration hearings into the deaths of 141 mentally ill patients is currently underway here in Parktown, Johannesburg. Lawyers involved in the arbitration have not yet succeeded in bringing 3 key witnesses, including the former Gauteng Health MEC Kodani Mahlangu, to testify. Now, the latest is that Mahlangu had been suspended without prejudice by the British banking school, where she'd been studying for an MBA to allow her to deal with her South African issues. Let's go there live.
I thank you, Justice, because it was only you who asked Ethel when she was here that when did my brother die, because we have different dates and other papers indicate that he only passed on, it was in the evening.
But did they say then that they kept your brother and put you to rest from then, 2nd or 3rd of July, up to when you were there to fetch him on the 19th of July?
Ingabe khona kanjena ukuthi bamgcina ubhutweni kusukela ngalezo 2 noma 3 zikaJuly kwaze kwaba yilapho nina ntomlanda khona ephuthu to rest?
Yes, we entered one what sizobhadala ukuthi igala bamgcinile. That's why yena naye ukuthi sina sizwe izolo namhlanje ngifuna
Yes, it was Ethel who told us, and she said we must pay because they kept my brother for a very long time. That's why I argued with her and saying that they only told us yesterday that my brother has passed away.
Who did she say you must pay?
By know what made need cocaine.
Or can we put it another way? Who had to be paid?
What we have a federal parable, you put you to rest.
They said you must pay the people from Putu to rest.
Was your brother's body decomposed or in order?
Ingabe isidumbu somfowenu kade sesiqala ukuphola noma kade sisasesimeni esikahle?
Hayi besina ukuphola zange be-awe but bengekho esimeni esikahle. Ube ngangazi ngabe ngakushuthi isithole ukuthi uzowazi.
He wasn't in a good situation or the form of his body. If I knew then I would have taken pictures, but he wasn't decomposed or anything like that.
He was not decomposed.
No.
Counsel.
Was he covered? Ingabe waye bathisiwe kahle. He had a burnt track pant on him, or trouser, and a big top that matched that track pant. He had different socks on.
No, the witness says the pair of socks were not the same.
Thank you, Justice.
That was a pair which looked mismatched. Mismatched. That's the word. Thank you.
He had a vest on that only had one part missing, so he was only covered the half part of his body.
White coat is done.
Did he have shoes on? No, he didn't have shoes. He had emaciated, so the clothes that he had on were very big. And that's why I phoned Ethel to question her, and why did they put those clothes
And
on?
when they showed your brother to you, was she on a table, on a stretcher, or on the floor?
Lapho benibonisa umfowenu ngabe wayekwi-stretcher noma etafuleni noma wayephansi. He was on the floor.
Was there a tag on his wrist or ankle to identify him?
Ngabe i-tag la esihlakaleni noma ozwanini lalibonisa ukuthi uyena. No, he didn't have any tag on him. That's the reason why I asked how did they know that it was him.
And the clothes that he was wearing, were those his clothes?
Ingabe kwakuyizimpahla zakhe lezi ayigqokile noma iy'ngubo kwakwezakhe. No, we don't know. We didn't recognize as his clothes.
Do you know what caused Christopher's death? Did you ask Ethel?
Nambuzo Ethel ukuthi yaba yini imbangela yokushona kukamfowenu? Yes, I did ask Ethel.
What did she say?
Was it he?
What I should vele walala kuphela bebesela ngibamthola ukuthi usister omunye ngamtshela ukuthi hayi Christopher akasaphaphama ukulela uvele walala nje.
She said my brother was only sleeping. When the sister took rounds, it was when she notified Ethel that Christopher doesn't, or he is not waking up when she was trying to wake him up.
So Ethel says he passed away in his sleep.
To Ethel, ushone elele noma isebuthongweni.
Ushone ekuseni after breakfast. Ngimtshela ngathi ungambuza ngathi uyithathile amaphilisi akhe na wathi yes ngathi lona makangawaphuzanga ngihlali nje ngeke makangaphuzanga ubona ngayo wathi wathathile.
Ethel said he passed away after breakfast, and I asked Ethel if he took his medication, and then she said yes, he did take his medication.
Please may I refer you to page 3800 of the same file that's in front of you, 3800. Justice, for the record, this document is an official Gauteng provincial government document headed Department of Health Emergency Medical Services, and it purports to be a document signed by an emergency medical practitioner, a Mr. T. Nkosi. It is not dated. I just like the witness to be sure that we're on the right page.
Yes, he's on the right page.
It states that Mr. Nkosi was dispatched to an address 194 Bergatillery Street in Danville, and
that's the live Esidimeni arbitration process currently underway here in Parktown, Johannesburg, but it's 1100 hours. Let me remind you of our top stories. The National Taxi Alliance strike brings some parts of Gauteng to a standstill. One of the three key witnesses, in fact, we'll first look at Manana. That's a former Deputy Minister, Manana, in court today. And those are some of your headlines, plus, of course, the Esidimeni, live Esidimeni arbitration process currently underway here in Johannesburg. Talking about that, let's go back live.
Christopher passed away in the morning on the 3rd of July, and I presume that 2015 is an error on the form.
U-advocate wabonisa ukuthi leli phepha ngempela liyabonisa ukuthi uChristopher washona ekuseni njengoba kubhaliwe la isikhathi. U-2015 kube iphutha nje encane. Yes, it does say so, but they didn't tell us the truth.
Did you went to collect Christopher's body? What about his belongings? His ID, his clothes, medical records, whatever he may have had with him, did Ethel return those to you?
Njengoba nenilanda isidumbu sikaChristopher kwenzeke ngezinto okwezakhe njengezingubo zokugqoka, i-ID njalo njalo. U-Ethel wathini mayelana nalokho?
Azange singenise i-ID, mavele i-ID lesikhathi ngibuza ukuthi wayebonga nama-contacts i-ID yakhe ikhona.
She didn't give us anything. It was only the ID. That is when I asked her that, how can you say that you didn't have our contact details, but you have his ID document?
Was your address in his ID document? Or your mother's address, rather?
Noma ikheli kamama lalibhaliwe yini kwi-ID yakhe.
Lalingekho but ngicabanga ukuthi kuba easy mana ngakwazi Home Affairs uzathola yonke information.
No, there was no address, but I thought if they could go to Home Affairs and try to track us down, I think they would have found some of our details there. And they do have our phone numbers, 7 of them.
7 phone numbers, 7 family members?
Yes.
And did she provide you with any of his other belongings?
Khona yini okuthile okungokwakhe anikeza kona? There is nothing. She only gave us these papers. I even asked her why did she write and then scratch again on the paper, because it wasn't clear what she has written.
On which paper are you referring?
Oh, yeah, she's referring to the file that she gave us.
Did you ask her for the belongings?
Yes, I did ask for his belongings, and I asked her again to show me where he was kept, where he slept. or where he died.
And were you taken to Denver?
Ngabe nahanjiswe eDenville. No, we didn't go there. She said it was too far and she was busy with other patients.
Did you go at any other time?
Ngabe nahlelo ukuhamba kwesinye isikhathi noma nabuyela yini naye khona. We did arrange for some other time and she said yes, I can come.
Did you go?
I did go there. When I called her, she said she was driving. I must wait for her, but she didn't pitch.
Did you tell Ethel Nuber that according to tradition, it's very important to know exactly where your loved one died?
Ngabe wamchazela Ethel ukuthi ngokwesintu kubalekile ukubona noma ukuthola indawo lapho othandekayo wena ashonele khona.
Umchazela wathi uyazi sizoyazi kuzosisa lapho wafuma yena.
Yes, she said she knew that and she said she would take us there.
So she understood why you wanted to go to Denver to see ukuthi umfowenu uphelelaphi angithi.
Okusho ukuthi uyawaqonda ukuthi kungani ngifuna ukuyibona leyo ndawo ukuthi umfowenu uphelele kuphi. Yes, she did understand.
When I speak isiZulu, you speak Zulu. You can't also repeat
Yes, Justice. Yes, yeah, that's true.
And so you never then had an opportunity to visit the place where Christopher passed away?
Now, what in the ungathola ithuba lokuhamba uyobona lapho Christopher aphelela khona.
Azange ngithola ukuthi kwenzakala kwaza then ngiyabonga ku section 27 isiponsile. Ngoba after that singibuye khona ngithwelela omunye Kayla we-checkpoint because ukuthi fanele sihambe siye lapho.
I would like to thank Section 27 because they're the ones who showed us which route to take. They sent Kyla to me, and that was the opportunity I got to go there and see the place.
Did Ms. Ncube never contact you again?
Ngabe ninaxhumana futhi no Ms. Ncube.
Ms. Ncube masikontaktana sihlangana nefoni naye ukuthi khona engikubonayo ukuthi ngiyamfonela ngitshele ngoba ngamfonela sihamba nabo Kayla ukuthi sobona ukuthi ngibone nje ngaphandle sathola ukuthi babuve from last night babuye babaleka ebusuku.
I did phone Ethel when I didn't understand something that was written, and I did call her again when we were with Kyla, notifying her that we were coming, but only to find out that they moved out the previous evening.
So the place was closed?
Yes, it was closed.
And did you ever speak to Ms. Ncube again?
Yeah. Yes, I did make contact.
Why?
It's because I wanted to notify that I was going to open a case against her at Asheshville police station. So that was when I talked to her, notifying her about that.
Why did you want to open a case at Asheshville police station?
A case at Asheshville. I took that decision because I saw that she was a thief. She killed someone and then she evacuated the premises the previous night. So I only saw fit that I should open a case against her because she was a thief and a murderer.
Did you then go to the Attridgeville police station to open a case?
Why at the Attridgeville police station open a case? Yes, I did go to the police station and I called her when I was at the police station again.
And And did you speak to any police officer at the police station?
Yes, yes.
And did they open a case for you? Did they give you a case number?
Another one, a case number. Yes.
And did they ever contact you again, the police?
Amaphoyisa ake angithinta kusukela ngaleso sikhathi.
Amaphoyisa azange athinte kusho kwenzakala usisoma uthofona ngathi uzosinona kusaslipara wathola ifoni yakakho ethele uma nje ukuthi ethele khona msakamusho.
My sister was going to make a follow-up, but when she was trying to phone the police station, her fingers, the phone was slippery, and then she dialed Ethel's number by mistake. But she did talk to Ethel, and then after that phone call, she said to me, no, they didn't. Ethel was not in jail because I was just talking to her. Then after that, I phoned Warrant Mukari, he's an officer there, and to notify him that Ethel was not arrested.
What did Officer Mukari say to you?
Was it in Officer Mukari?
What many letter from a court also happened on board?
To me again. From the court.
What he's waiting for a letter from.
Okay, and then he informed us that he's still waiting for a court order to go and arrest Ethel. I think the legal document.
Do you still have the case number that they provided to you when you first went to the police station?
Was that a case number? Yes, I do have.
And have you heard from them again, the police?
After that, it was July this year. Mom followed like selling jail to car so surely to take it over.
It was only in July this year that another police officer phoned me and told me that Mukari has also passed away. So he was the one who's going to take the case over.
And what was the name of that officer that called you in July 2017?
She can't remember. She says it's Muloto or Mugol or somewhere there.
Why do you think Christopher died? You were very concerned and you opened a case at the police station. What do you think was the cause of his death?
I think it's because he wasn't taking his medication properly. Christopher knew that after he's taken a bath, he should take his medication. But I think that's what killed him, because he didn't receive proper medication.
And was Christopher receiving a disability grant from Sassa?
Yes, he did receive a grant.
And where did the money, who collected the grant for him, given that he was in an institution?
The card was kept there. They were the ones who collected the money.
Kept where?
Okay. From Life Esidimeni, they are the ones who kept his Sassa card.
And did they collect the money every month from Sassa?
I'm not sure, but it's because we were happy that he was kept, he was looked after very well there at Waverley, so we didn't know if they took it or not.
And did anybody return his Sassa card to you?
No one buys the card to Sassa. No one did.
When was Christopher laid to rest?
Oh, Christopher namfihlanini.
23rd or 24th July 2016.
Between the 23rd or 24th of July 2016.
And who arranged for the burial services and the funeral expenses?
Ubani wahlela wonke umngcwabo kaChristopher?
Ngohlala yini nosisi wami but ukuthi bayabhadala umama bayabhadala
It was my sister and I, but the initial person who paid for everything was my mother because she had a policy.
Do you know how much it cost you and your sister?
Uyazi ukuthi iy'ndleko sezizonke zaba emalini.
Angeke ngazi kahle ngoba ngene package yenalo ngazi ngathi
she doesn't know the precise amount, but she can estimate.
Did you, were there a lot of visitors at the time of the funeral?
Yes,
Yes, they did come because in our culture, from day one, when they hear about the passing of a person, everyone comes.
And did you have to provide food to all the visitors?
Yes. Yes, we did.
What has the impact of Christopher's death been on you and your family, Mrs. Pandya?
Ngikuthathe kanjani ukudlula emhlabeni kaChristopher wena nomndeni wakho?
Thina sikhathi kakhulu because into eyangiphatha kabi ukuthi two of his brothers bebayiva isazi ukuthi bashone nini kanjani kuphi so bese sazi ukuthi sisebenza kanjani as nomnqozo mama ugogo wayikhala sathi papa ngakho-3 wangcwabile angimazi kube kujabule ukuphathe kabi till now ngoba bengazi ukuthi message ngithi siyobona umfana wami osele nofika uyakwazi ukuthi ubani.
It was very painful and hurtful because we had 3 brothers, and the 2 of them, since they also passed on, we knew how they died and when they died. But with Christopher, we didn't have all the details, so that is why it was very painful. And my mother as well. That's why she cried so much, because she didn't know what really happened to Christopher.
Mrs. Mandela, you've been present at these hearings from the beginning, and you've heard some of the government officials have come to explain what happened. There will be others who will come in the future, but is there anything that you would like to say based on what you've heard so far? Is there anything you would like to add?
Njengoba mamphangela uhlale ukhona la kusukela osukwini lokuqala uye wabezwa abanye bekhuluma wena yini ongathanda ukuyisho namuhla ngokwalokho osokuzwile kuze kube manje? She's saying, who are you referring to?
Which government officials?
Oh, ukhuluma ngeyikhulu zikahulumeni.
Ngithanda ukuthi uyikhulu zakahulumeni cancel. Mina abantwana bakithi ngiyabathanda, ngiyayithanda ifamily yami too much ngoba babancane ngiyabathanda abantwana bakithi, ngiyayithanda ifamily yakwami kwafanele, ngiyabathanda. To me, ukuba khona kwakaChristopher la emhlabeni it was not a mistake. uNkulunkulu wazile ukuthi fanele abe khona kule family aphile sinsamgcinela acala ukufeyila lesifo sakhe ana 10 years silokhu sihleli simthanda. And ngicela ukutshela state ukuthi asikho isigodi osigango sokulahla abantu. Mina ngilimele ngiyaqhubeka nje ngoba fanele ngiqhubeke. And number 2, ngizwile omunye wethu la.
She's referring to Councillor, that she is very hurtful because she loves her family, and Christopher, when Christopher was here, it wasn't a mistake. She loved her family and everyone, so she's referring to the councillor, and she was still continuing to address the government officials.
She's referring to the state council.
Yes. Yes, Justice.
I'm to a state.
Yes.
I'm to state said. This is double Margan. It's okay 4 times Margan. When I give me the that I gave me, and you comparison the Marcas, because American Babas, with the strike of a hammer is in you. Bayo, Mama Quest, I look at Taban. Laba the Bada Noban. Nothing about a woman appears special about kitchen, maybe Sassa Kabacha, who's by my car, can't buy you fat. Yet there is
someone who was a witness here compared this situation to the Marigana, but I don't compare the situation to Marigana because people in Marigana, they were protesting and they had weapons on them, but these people, they didn't do anything. They didn't go and protest. They were patient.
And they were taken out, thrown onto parks, helplessly. I thought that's what the witness said. I thought the witness said these were innocent people who were patient, who were taken, thrown out there and put on parks. What had they done to deserve that? Sure.
Abenzanga niks ngoba mawufika lapha uyi-1 baza kuwe bonke kunomuntu ophuma ngaphandle uzobabona uzobaphuma 50 sengihamba nama-50 cents ukuthi nginike lo mkhono ukunika ukuthi bona benzeni bebalwa nobani basitrakela bani bashaya bani bavula umlomo bathuka bani bagcwele isiganga njena bayagijeliswa noma ngokuphi. I think mina ngicela ukuqhubeka.
She says they were innocent, and whenever she went to visit Christopher, 5 or 10 of them would come, and because they were happy to see anyone who was coming from outside, and she was carrying sweets and 50 cents to give each of them. That's how happy they were. Who were they fighting? Who were they fighting? It looks like they were abandoned in the open field. They didn't know anything. They only knew that it's time to eat and time to take medication, and they would go outside and play. And they were very happy when they were discharged or when they were taken home, because they knew that they wanted to visit home. They were happy. But now these women, like me, they killed these people.
Thank you, Mrs. Langella. I don't have further questions.
Thank you. Thank you.
Council, go to on page 380. How does one characterize that document? What is that?
Yes, Justice.
I'll tell you what is potentially important is the note at the bottom. These patients were brought from Waverley without And I can see medical history.
Assessment.
Assessment of medical history. Is it clear who would have compiled the document? It's meant to be a medical officer at the top, but I don't see the name of the medical officer.
Right at the bottom right-hand corner of the page, it says name of medical officer is MS, and I can't read the signature. And it's dated 22 June 2016. And
would that be the possible date of admission
at potentially at Precious Angels, but we have no evidence of that because the family wasn't informed. And the last visit the family had with Christopher was May 2016.
You see, after that note, if you go to page 3803.
Yes, my understanding is that is a different document. They're not part of the same set.
That is from Life Esidimeni. That would be different from the previous one. Yes. And 3804, will that still be Life Esidimeni? What would that be? Or is it just part of 3800?
It's possible that it's part of, it doesn't appear to be part of the Life Esidimeni page, which is a page that's just meant to clearly record patient's progress. So it's a page for taking notes and to record patient's progress. These documents were provided to the families by Ms. Newsroom in this current form, incomplete as they are. As you will see from page 3802, it says page 5 of 26, but all 26 pages are not provided. And these were the documents that were provided to the family and that the family provided to the attorneys.
Of course, she told us herself that the patients were brought there, Ms. Nuda, were brought there without assessment and without record. And this is an epileptic person.
That's correct.
Who would have depended for his life on the medication. And if you look at, but look after 3802, that purports to be, I know on a Life Esidimeni document, it purports to be a description of how he died. Can you see that? And somebody has written at the right corner. Patients drink night medication without any problems. After some few minutes, he vomited. During the night, he was often checked if he is okay. In the morning at about 6 a.m. when bathing, patient went to check the patient again and realized that he was cold. Checked the pulse, there was no pulse. On some record, presumably they received, and somebody made this entry on the 3rd of June, which is a month earlier. Is this of any help to us? What is
the only inference that I can draw from all of this is that there was one very poor record keeping, and it's where we can't even make sense of the report by the medical officer, the emergency medical officer, who says he attended at Danville. We don't know whether that can be taken to be a true reflection of what took place. I think all that we can say is in fact that, and I say this with.
You don't have to say with respect, frankly.
That, well, also with reluctance, because I think that it's possible that the date that is recorded on the death certificate is not accurate. and that it was simply what was provided to whoever was.
And the duty to keep proper records of patients. You look at what's available before us, it's totally symbolic. It's so inadequate, so inaccurate, so lacking in what is necessary to give care to somebody who is epileptic. Just by reading this. Anyway, it may be a matter for argument later. Did you ever ask for any records of your brother? Because we're looking at some records here that the state has given us, and just no records.
Yes, we did ask for records.
Did she give you any?
She only gave us these papers. There was nothing else that she gave us. We only saw this file when we were back at home, when we were reading through the file.
Yes, I'm done. Are you any further questions in the light of what I've asked?
No, Justice, it's anything I can say now will only add to further confusion regarding what the meaning of these documents are, who filled them in, why. There's no sense of the dates. There's actually, what these documents show, unfortunately, is that there isn't an answer. It isn't clear what happened. It isn't clear who cared for Christopher. And it isn't frankly clear whether procedures were followed by medical officers and or those responsible for registration of death.
Even to certify his death, even to ascertain the date of death, to ascertain the cause of death, or the place of death, it is strong. But just look at these scanty documents. Very well. Let's start with questions. Counsel.
Thank you, Justice. My dear friend, Mrs. Kibi, will ask you questions.
Yes, very well.
Thank you, Justice. Sabona Mema. Yes. Just want to ask one or two questions. Did you undergo any counseling after having heard the sad news of the passing of your brother?
Yes, we did.
Thank you. No further questions.
Who provided the counseling?
Ubani or one niggas at all counseling. Sadak, they're the ones who arranged for us, for counsellors to come at our house in Soweto.
Sadak, the South African Depression Association, is it?
Depression and Anxiety Group.
Depression and Anxiety
Group.
Any further questions?
No further questions.
Done.
Thank you.
Very well.
Thank you, Justice. We have no questions for the witness. Thank you.
Evidence leader, counsel.
Thank you, Justice Zanek. Mempangela, just to place one thing on record on the document we have been referred to on 233803. Are you on the page? Page 3803.
Yes.
The document at the top, it's written patient's progress notes. The name is Christopher Makoba. Then there's the against the doctor, there's something written there. I can't read exactly what that is. Underneath them, there's a date. The first entry is the date, and the time is the CEDC 11:15. You see that? Yes. The entry, the date entry there, it's 06/2016. I can't see the exact date there. And on the notes it reads, user will be transferred to an NGO today. Conditions satisfactory, well, I'm not sure well what. Then it goes on, not recent injuries noted. Then there's an entry which reads TTO for 28 days supplied. I assume that would be the medication. Then it goes on file with patient's details taken with. Do you see that?
Yes, I can see that.
So from this, it appears that your brother may have been transferred from life Esidimeni during June, but it's not sure exactly what date in June. And as you indicate on the 3rd of, that is the next month, the incident occurred as it appears on the page, that is on the page in, what's that? It's on page 3807. Where is he died? You see that? In fact, in less than a month that your brother was transferred to that NGO, which is not identified on the page, he met his demise.
Uyabonisa ukuthi oshuthi umboweni washona ngakapheli ngisho nenyanga ehanjisiwe ukususa e-life Esidimeni. Yes, that is what I said.
Thank you, Justice Simpson.
That probably happened when the 28 days of TTO of the medication he was given to him ran out.
Correct, Justice Simpson.
From the dates here.
From the dates, yes.
Yeah. It looks like when the medication ran out and he died.
That's correct.
Counsel for the state.
Thank you, Justice. Ms. Pangela, good morning.
Yes.
On behalf of the government, we have had the account in respect of the experience that you have went through during the passing of your brother, Christopher Makoma.
Ngokwalokho okushilo Mamphangela sizwile into eninahlangabezana nayo noma ukuphatheka kabi eninakuthola ngathi kusho umfowenu Christopher.
We indeed regret his passing. There is no justification that can be made for the loss of your brother.
Impela siyaxolisa ngikwesehlakaleni nabhekana naso sokushona komfowenu futhi akukho esingakusho okungase mhlawumbe kwenzele sisimo sibe ngcono.
And all that I can say is that we trust that this process should be able to assist for you to find closure with regard to the unfortunate occurrence of the death of your brother.
Engakusho ukuthi siyethemba ukuthi lesi sigcawu sizokwazi ukuthi kusinilethele isiphetho nokuthi namaqiniso ukuthi kwenzekani ngokushona komfowenu.
And we thank you for having taken the time to be part of this process together with other family members and the government officials in order to get to the bottom of the causes of the tragic events which had occurred.
Siyabonga ngokuthi uthathe isikhathi sakho kanye neminye imindeni ngisho nezikhulu ezivela kuhulumeni ukuthi nibe khona kulesi sigcawu. Sethemba ukuthi kuba khona kwalesi sigcawu sizothola onke amaqiniso nembangela yokwenzeka kwalesi sibhicongo.
On that note, Justice, we have no questions to the witness. We just regret the passing of his brother, Christopher Makoko. Thank you, Justice.
Thank you, Counsel. Mama, unalilungelo ukuthi uphendule manje aba uyafuna.
You have a right to answer if you want to. You're not compelled. Counsel, I would find closure if all these women were to be arrested and put to jail. That is where I would find closure.
So,
I would be very happy if these women were arrested. Even when Ethel was here, I did talk to her, and I did say and she said to me only 37 people at that time were dead, but then we uncovered that more people died. But I want to talk to them, women to women, face to face.
And I told her that we are going to meet. It won't end up here. We are going to meet, and now here we meet Ethel.
Yes.
The witness said that.
Yes, that's true.
I'm telling justice enough. Walk around to about how we have what mama and a wash, what one my gun. They go running to what one of us singing one by one. Now in Chile, who made what wash, with one my gun, what's agas, why am I gun?
Indeed, Justice, I did tell you that one day we will meet, and yes, it did happen. And other people were asking us that, why did she say so? And she said, she said she didn't know why she didn't leave what she was doing.
Yes. Why did she stop farming with people?
Yes, yes.
That's really what the witness implied.
Yes.
Yes.
Ayikho into engizona njengomuntu ukuba isikhwama sakhe ngokuhluba umuntu. Umuntu uyakhala omunye ujabule ukuthi isikhwama sakhe siyaphuma abanye abadlile. Thina ngoba siyasistruggle nokuya kulezo ibhedlela lezi basithatha singavuma. Then bona bajabula kubuhlungu ukujabula ngokuhluba. Umuntu ajabule ngokuhluba komuntu. Even umama ukugile akakwazi nokuhambisa inyawo. But she had to come for the last time with the night. It was 18 years old.
It really hurts me when people are greedy and when they want their pockets full of money, when we struggle even to go and visit our loved ones. My mother is very old and she can't even walk by herself, and she only she saw his son. She last saw his son when? On the 18th of May 2016.
Yeah, Counsel, re-examination.
No re-examination.
Siyagcinela mami. Ngaba khona usafuna ukukhuluma bakubaso ukukhuluma.
Is there anything you'd like to add?
Ukuthi ngiyabonga ukuthi sibuyele ngesizutshilo umuntu ofana nawe uvumbulela ngoba umi besikwazi onto-find ukuthi umisi singasondele kahle la uneighbor yama-in-laws wami eRockville eSoweto. Neighbor abayeni bethu bamkhulela ngaphansi kwakhe eduze nabo bahlala bonke. Bengingake ngikwazi ukuyazange ngibize wena ubavumbule. Kuhle ngoba bayakhiphana sibonga ukuthi amaqiniso aphume ubuhlungu uzophela. Mina bengingasho ukuthi angeke ashone uChristopher. Sonke siphilile ukushona, but not in this way.
Thank you, Justice, because they elected you, and you're the one who summon the people to come here, like Mrs. Masondo. And she is my brother-in-law's neighbor in Rockville, Soweto. So thank you for you summoning them to come here so that we can hear all the truths about what happened.
It's not me, it's all the smart advocates, but I will take the credit if you give it to me.
Thank you, Mrs. Pangela.
Sure. And you thankful also to Section 27, she says. Very well. We're going to take the tea break. It is like 17 minutes before 12. We're going to have to do it quickly. So we meet at 12:15 to resume the hearing, please. We are adjourned.
That is the life Esidimeni arbitration process, taking a tea break right now. And of course, we'll bring you up to speed with that after that. But now, the South African Post Office and the Social Security Agency, Sassa, are reported to have reached a social grant agreement. The Post Office will be part of the grants distribution system. Government has announced a hybrid payment system between Sassa and the Post Office. The deal will be signed next Friday. Chairperson of Parliament's financial watchdog, Scopa, Tembagori, has urged both Sassa and the South African Post Office to keep Parliament in the loop about the deal.
If you are going to sign this agreement next week, Friday, which is the 17th? Yeah, the 17th. Can Parliament then be finished with these details by the following Tuesday? I think that will be the 21st, isn't it? The 21st on Tuesday. I think administratively we'll still confirm that, but the first opportunity we have after Friday is Tuesday, so that we as Parliament can satisfy ourselves and can thus have a tool to track, to monitor progress and processes.
Now, the Life Esidimeni arbitration hearings into the death of 141 mentally ill patients has resumed in Cape Town. In fact, they just took a break right now, but lawyers involved in the arbitration have not yet succeeded in bringing 3 key witnesses, including the former Gauteng Health MEC Kodani Mashlangu, to testify.
Before we hear evidence, however, I have certain inquiries I'd like to make from Council about the attendance of 3 public officials whose appearance in this hearing, this arbitration hearing, is considered vital by the parties themselves. So I'm going to start off by inquiring about arrangements to achieve the attendance of the former MEC of Health in the province of Gauteng, Mr. Ani Mahlangu. Council.
Thank you, Justice. Good morning. With regard to the former MEC, the attorneys are making effort to locate the residential address of the former MEC. That process is ongoing. We have not yet been in a position to establish her residential address. However, there has been communication with a new set of attorneys, BBM.
And that's a residential address in which country?
The residential address in England. We are made to understand that she is currently in England. However, we do not have the full details of her residential address. And that still needs to be ascertained in order to make sure that when the subpoena is issued at a specific address of her residence. So that process is still taking place. And I wanted to proceed to state that there has been communication on her behalf by a set of attorneys that she has appointed to assist and facilitate her attendance in this proceedings.
We're going to move to the next witness where the parties require to give evidence in this arbitration proceedings, and that is Dr. Manamela.
Good morning, Justice.
Good morning.
We've received the return of service from the sheriff. The subpoena had been reissued. It was served upon the 2nd of November. And the date on which Dr. Manamela is required to appear is 20th November. We've heard no objection or challenge to the subpoena thus far.
And that inevitably moves us to the third witness, Dr. Esidimeni.
Thank you, Justice Musaneke. Once again, we need to report that we have made effort to get the subpoena issued against Dr. Esidimeni. The subpoena was served on the 31st of October 2017, and we have confirmation of that service. In terms of the subpoena, Dr. Esidimeni is to appear before these proceedings on the 4th of December 2017. Subsequent to the service of the subpoena, Dr. Esidimeni has issued an urgent application in the Johannesburg High Court under case number 43011 of 2017. In terms of the urgent application issued by Dr. Esidimeni, he seeks to set aside the subpoena issued against him, requiring him to appear before these proceedings. That application is set down for hearing at the Johannesburg High Court on the 28th of November. Upon receipt of the application, consideration is being given to that application in order to determine the way forward with regards to the challenge to the subpoena which has been issued against him.
Lindiwe Sisulu was educated in Swaziland and in Canada. She was tortured in detention during apartheid for having banned ANC material. Lindiwe worked as a lecturer at the Manzini Teachers Training College in the mid-1980s. She joined the MK in exile and was intelligence operative. During 1990, when she returned to South Africa, she worked as President Jacob Zuma's PA.
As we are gathered here today, nourishing the fruits of liberation, we recognize that some of our gallant men and women with whom we fought in the deep, ugly trenches of war are not here.
She held numerous parliamentary positions since 1994, including Minister of Intelligence, Deputy Minister of Home Affairs, Minister of Public Service and Administration, Minister of Defence and Military Veterans, and member of the ANC's National Executive Committee. Lindiwe was awarded Human Rights Center Fellowship in Geneva in 1992, Presidential Award for Housing Delivery by the Institute for Housing of South Africa in 2004, and International Association for Housing Science Award in 2005. Lindiwe is the current Minister of Human Settlements.
Viva! It is a must. I, Lindiwe Sisulu, have committed myself to these principles. We must stop corruption. It is alien to our movement and it is harming us. We must unshackle ourselves from the stronghold of undemocratic processes. The ANC is not for sale. So for heaven's sake, don't let anybody buy your vote. And don't you buy anybody's vote.
It's a must.